thing, not a moment of your time. I could break your heart from time to time.
Welcome back to East Coast DNA. We've been getting quite a few on the road interviews out this year where we've dialed back the number of episodes to try a few different things here, but we're still falling back into the Zoom because we're covering a wide area. We have a very huge country here with a lot of landmass. And even though we focus on the East Coast, it's a little bit of a trek to get from town to town sometimes. So today we have Dillon Ryan. Welcome, Dillon.
Very happy to be here. Thank you.
And Dillon, you're calling in from Miramichi, New Brunswick.
Yeah, the prime place to be watching the solar eclipse.
Just got back in with my daughter from watching it there as well.
Nice. How was it? You're in Halifax, right?
I'm actually just a little outside Halifax, about an hour and a half outside in Pictou County. I think from what I read, it actually ended up being similar to what you guys had for visibility there.
Yeah.
The place that I watched it from was just up the hill from where I'm at, so it wasn't like a super close spectacle or anything, but we had a few different viewing devices, and I brought some video camera equipment up there too, so might have some cool clips from it later too.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of tourists in town just for this event. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why before we hit record, I brought it up too, because I knew a lot of people from Nova Scotia were heading over there. So I'm sure the people that live closer were probably all up there too. It must have been quite a few people around.
Yeah.
So you had reached out to me just not too long ago, gave me a little treat, advance listen to your upcoming album.
Yes, yeah.
So that's out April 26th.
Yeah, you got it.
Excellent. Okay, my memory's not that bad. So for newcomers to Dillon, it's Dillon Ryan and the Dream Romantic.
Yep, that's correct.
So that's always been the band that you've performed with as well?
Yeah, I mean, this lineup of the band, myself, Julie Doucette on keyboards, David Gregory on bass guitar, and Alec Victor on drums. We've been a band in this incarnation for about 6 years. I started the band just a little over 10 years ago, but it's been an ever-growing thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm familiar with your name and
Yeah.
your music career, probably more so from some of the community radio stations and some of the East Coast countdowns.
Yeah.
And obviously with this show, I'm a member of some of the different music industries that we have down here. So like Music New Brunswick, I was just there not that long ago. So I follow all their newsletters and everything. And
Yeah.
I definitely see a lot of content coming from New Brunswick. So I was familiar with your name. I would have been more familiar with you predating the podcast, which is a nice thing. It wasn't just because I was covered East Coast music. I was worried
Love
before
that. That's great.
Probably around the 2017 era, I probably would have been familiar with you. So that would have been more so the latest incarnation of your lineup.
Yeah, I really feel like 2017 was sort of when things were starting to really take off creatively with the band for sure. Like I had formed the lineup that I currently have. We started really getting dialed in on the style of music that we wanted to be writing. I started working with our producer, John Mullane, at that time. And yeah, we were starting to get a little bit of success at that time. We had won a couple of Music New Brunswick awards. Well, just one. We were nominated for a couple, but yeah. So that 2017 was a good year, and it was the first year where I really felt like we're starting to get into our own a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I would normally ask, well, what happened in between? Because had a lot of momentum, and it seems like now is not quite, but almost from my point of view, as the level of fan that I've been following you, it almost seems like a little bit of a comeback. And I immediately was going to ask you, well, in the years in between, like, where did it die off? And I realized, oh, we had a global pandemic. So that definitely, there's a few bands that didn't make it because they were just coming out and starting to build that momentum, and then everything hit the fan and they shut things down. And some of the bands haven't come back. A lot of new bands were started. There's a lot of projects were completed because people had extra time. But now I was already aware of you. It's nice to see you come back now, but maybe not so much what's happened since 2017, but maybe the last 2 years or wherever the development for this new album started. Like when would that era have started for Dylan Ryan?
Well, I just want to comment on something you said because
Mhm.
I think if you're in the music industry as a creative, there's certain ebbs and flows to if you want a long career in this. And I've always just came to terms with that. Sometimes you're going to be on a little bit of a high. Sometimes
Yeah.
you're going to be taking a little bit of a backseat, and I think that's fine. And when I started this band at the end of 2013, which would have been the first incarnation of the band, um, you know, a lot of the bands that existed at that time, I mean, I won't name anyone, but I've seen a lot of them come and go. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm kind of still here just riding it out because that's just what I do. And I'm okay with that ebb and flow. And yeah, you touched on the pandemic, and definitely I think a lot of bands lost a little bit of momentum there. But you know, I did a lot of demoing during those years, and I made an acoustic record during that time. Did lots of music videos, lots of live streams. I've always stayed as busy as possible.
Mhm.
I I average about playing about 90 shows a year, and
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to get at too for your live show, how much
yeah.
you're getting, because I do see your name still out there quite a bit.
Oh yeah. I feel very thankful that in the East Coast and specifically in New Brunswick, I've been able to make a living from playing live shows and teaching music and just really putting my name out there and just building connections and just having a steady work cycle. And a lot of those things, whether it be playing in cover bands or doing acoustic shows, it really helps fund my artistic project, which is um, Dylan Ryan and the Dream Romantic. So I'm very thankful for that. Yeah.
And now I probably should ask the question up front. I am curious just because the name Ryan.
Yeah.
Are you of any relation to Mike Ryan of Town Heroes or Sherry Ryan?
No, but definitely a fan of the Town Heroes for sure.
Yeah, excellent. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure because you're over in New Brunswick if there would be any ties there with either of those names, but they're definitely both names that are familiar to me on this end.
No, my father's family, they're all either from Britain or they're from Newfoundland. So
Okay. Well,
yeah,
they might have to dig into Sherry a little bit at some point and see if there's some kind of connection there. I
yeah,
wouldn't be surprised you're like a fourth or fifth cousin or something weird
it's
like that.
very possible.
Yeah, yeah. So when you formed the band, and we had already mentioned that's kind of a little variance in the incarnations of it over the years, but are these players that you were already familiar with from your local scene, or are they people that you've met over the years from already being in the music industry? Like, how did you actually form the Dream Romantic?
A little bit of both, I would say. Sometime around late 2016, early 2017, uh, I played a solo show opening up for a band in Moncton at the Cavo, really good venue in Moncton. We opened up for a band called the Gregories, and I became really good friends with them. And fast forward a few months, their their keyboardist Julie and their lead singer David, they joined the band, and soon after that, through an acquaintance, I had met Alec Victor, and he joined the band on drums, and that's kind of been the steady lineup ever since. And I kind of fell into one of these perfect storms where it's just I don't know what that saying is. The sum is greater than its parts, and
Yeah.
I feel lucky that I'm in one of those bands. It feels like that. You know what I mean?
Excellent. Now I'm actually getting to the point where I can pick it out, but it's written in the notes and you've mentioned it before we start recording. John Mullane, where does his involvement come in? Because you definitely have, I don't want to say a John Mullane sound, but the type of music you're
I'm
playing
I'm
is
I'm very okay with someone saying that though.
yeah. Yeah, no, that
No,
wouldn't be an insult, but
no.
it's definitely the type of music that I know he likes.
Hmm.
So, where does he fit into the puzzle? Like, I know he's originally from New Brunswick as well, and he's been on the show and a couple other bands. I definitely have a few connections where I could say he's popped up here, there, and there, but usually I can figure out how they know each other. And I don't know with you so much.
Well, we're both New Brunswick born people, and I remember my first demo CD that I made years ago. I had brought some copies to it to Spin It Records in Moncton. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Yeah, not the Moncton location, but I'm familiar with it from back in the day.
Yeah. I remember bringing some CDs in there, and there was a gentleman working there that said, "I really love your record. Like, uh, I know it." He's like, "I know a guy." He's like, "Do you know the band In Flight Safety?" And I was like, "Yeah, I love them. They're great." And he's like, "Well, their singer, he has a lot of the same tastes as what you like the Smiths and the Cure and Echo and the Bunnymen and a lot of that British European kind of sounds. And he's starting to take up producing bands. Would you mind if I sent him your record?" And I was like, "Go right ahead."
Awesome.
Then I guess within a couple weeks, I got an email from him. And really, I feel like we didn't start working on music till much, much later. I think it was just really like a friendship coming together and just months and months of bonding over music that we like and be like, "Oh, have you ever heard this record?" And he
Hmm.
would show me he would show me different things that I haven't heard. Like he'd be like, "Oh, there's this band from Europe called Marionettes. Check this out." And I'd be like, "Well, have you ever heard this?" And our friendship is still like that to this day. And that's probably why I'll always have some sort of uh, friendship and working affiliation with him.
That's probably 75% of my relationships out there right now are like that. And a lot of people that I meet through channels like this too is having those conversations with people. So I could definitely see where I know him a little bit and I've been researching you. I could definitely see the connection there.
I just think it's so important that you want like a team of people around you, like whether it's in your band or just producers or whoever, that just are as excited about not only making music, but being a fan of music. I
Yeah.
always say that as much as I'm a full-time musician, like I'm a fan first at the end of the day. Like I love going to concerts. I love listening to CDs. Like I'm still a CD person. Like no, when someone puts out a new record, like I always want to buy it. So
Hmm.
yeah.
That's actually, I'm going to use it as a segue. We still got plenty of time to talk about more of it, but your new album. So
Yes.
you're going to have a physical release with it. I don't have to ask that question based on your last response.
Absolutely. And I do understand that people aren't exactly buying music to a great extent, but I'm starting to see like a little bit of a resurgence of it. It's small, but it's like I think we're getting there a little bit.
Oh yeah, I think I might actually have to do an episode. I've held up a couple here and there, and I've referenced a few things, but just off to my side here is a massive collection of CDs.
Yeah.
And being that I've been interviewing musicians over the last few years here too, there's a growing stack of autographed ones. I might actually just have an episode where I just hold the CD up and talk about where it came from and why I have an autographed CD.
Right.
It's amazing. So I'm gonna have to add you on my want list now anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
And the album's coming out, like we said, April 26th. It's 8 tracks.
Yeah.
So
I'm a firm believer in I guess all killer, no filler.
yeah. I
Like
hear.
it's just a little over a half an hour long, and I like to treat albums like you were going out to see a band and you're just seeing a really great set. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I actually, I've been trying to nail down my listening style as it's changed over the last few years, but I do find like aside from one-off songs and like a playlist while you're in the car or the gym or what have you, if I'm going to be sitting in my apartment and listening to something, especially if I'm researching an artist that I'm about to interview,
Mhm.
I do like that solid, exactly like you're describing it. It feels like I just watched a set.
Yeah.
I went to go see them and I'm like, oh, this is what they sound like. This is their new sound that they're putting out. And I have a good feel for the whole thing of what's happening for the next little while with that band.
I mean, it's not music, but I heard a quote not too long ago. Is Jerry Seinfeld? He was talking about the length of like a comedy set. Like even just going over by 10 minutes can change how you view the show.
Mhm.
A comedian, you go see him or her or whoever live for an hour, you leave saying, "Oh, that was great." But an hour and 15, you're like, "Ah, I thought he was never going to end, or I thought she was never going to end."
Yeah, or you say some of it was good. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
I think it's just the idea of knowing when to edit yourself a little bit.
Yeah. That can
Like
be difficult.
for sure. And I think as artists, we all get very precious about ideas, and we want to think that every idea we have is equally as good or equally as strong. And I think that just comes back to having people on your team, whether it's producers or just your friends, hearing what you're doing before you're putting it out, to be like, hey, I really love these songs. This one's good. I mean, if you get a consensus on what are the best songs, it's pretty safe to say they're probably the best songs.
Yeah. I've been starting to get used to allowing myself to say something negative if somebody's playing me something that's like in a demo state.
Yeah,
I never in the past I'd be like, oh, it's awesome.
yeah,
And then I realized I'm like, oh, this was the opportunity for them to fix it. And they were asking my opinion. They didn't want a
yeah.
compliment. They wanted an opinion. So it is nice to, when you're in that area, to have people around you that are like-minded, but not afraid to speak their mind if they're not 100% on the same page.
Yeah, a friend of mine from Fredericton who plays in a couple of really great bands, he sent me his upcoming record. It's still in the mixing stages. And he's like, "Do you mind giving me some notes or like what you think could be the lead off single?" And I just gave him like a couple lines about every song. And he said, "Oh, I would have never thought that." And it's like, I'm like, yeah, this is why it's so important to just,
Yeah,
bounce ideas off people.
absolutely. Yeah, do
Yeah.
you find now that you've mentioned some of the bands that, both you and John had as common influences,
Yeah.
um, I might be a little dated in some of my terminology, and I hate to rely on, genres anyway, but I was kinda
Sure.
going with a more of a kind of a new wave kind of a sound that you have, but
Yeah, I think that's fair. Definitely little bits of new wave, post-punk, a little bit of
yeah.
early goth, but I like to think that there's some contemporary influences in it
Mhm.
as well. But I've always been someone that wears my influences on my sleeve. Like uh, I re I used to watch these interviews with Thurston Moore and Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth, and they would always be talking about like all these different bands that they're referencing, and they would talk about the culture around those bands at the time,
Yeah.
and that stuff is exciting to me as a fan, and I like to sort of adapt that into my music as well.
That's 100% why I'm on this end doing like those people that you're
Yeah,
talking about too. Like that's my era growing up, and I just took all that stuff in, and now that I'm on the other end, I'm like, oh, we need more and more. Like I want to watch the content, but I want to be out there making sure that all the artists from around here getting that kind of exposure. And I love the stories from the background.
Yeah.
And actually, just to geek out for a minute, since you mentioned artists that I also would have followed,
Yeah,
Kim
sure.
Gordon has new material out right now.
Yeah, I just saw she was on it was either Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon the other night.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was thinking you have a little bit of a rabbit hole to dig into, but it sounds like you've already fell down it. So
No, yeah. I like I said, I'm an enormous fan of music first, and I want to know everything about every band I like.
have you ever seen the documentary 1991, the year punk broke?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because that's actually a Sonic Youth tour video. It's just that it's full of Nirvana and like every other band from the Washington, Seattle area that you could think of at the time. But that was an excellent one too.
yeah. There's another great documentary that was made, Live Forever. It's about all like the Britpop of the 90s.
Oh, I don't know that one. I
Yeah,
know a lot of them, but that one I don't know. So
yeah,
now I have a rabbit hole to go down later.
yeah.
That's
No,
awesome.
like I'm a big Britpop guy. Like Oasis is one of my favorite bands ever. Yeah.
So getting into that and the type of music that you are playing in the region that we're in, and I'm kind of perpetuating it a little bit myself by having a show called East Coast DNA, but we have East Coast music,
Yep.
but anyone that's familiar with that term is thinking traditional folk fiddle, that type of music. People in the region are aware that we have a lot of different flavors here,
Yeah.
but the genres that you're playing with, even though you could rhyme off bands all day, you can't rhyme off bands in our region that play that type of music all day. That's why I was like, as soon as I listened to it, I'm like, do they know John Mullane? And then I'm like, oh yeah, no, John produced this. So like, okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. So I would have connected you sonically with John, I guess, but it would be a very short list. And I feel like I know quite a few. I definitely don't know all the bands, but I know quite a few, and I don't know too many that are playing in that
Living in Miramichi,
sandbox.
New Brunswick,
Yeah, yeah,
the
exactly.
Irish capital of Canada.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I really I put it down to like my father being British, and
Yeah.
you know, he was 14 years old when the Beatles were on the Ed Sullivan Show. And so when I was younger, I got a healthy dose of the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, the Who, and obviously when I was a teenager, I was getting into later British stuff
Mhm.
like Oasis, and I would listen to Noel Gallagher interviews, and he would talk about the Smiths. So I go back, listen to that, go back, listen to the Stone Roses, and you know, tons of American music, tons of Canadian bands. Like growing up watching Much Music when Much Music was still, you
Mhm.
know, a viable thing. Uh, you know, I remember when I was about 10, I saw the video for The Other Man by Sloan,
Yeah.
and I just thought this was amazing. And I bought that album, Pretty Together, and I went back and bought everything else by them. Then someone told me, yeah, they're from Halifax. And I was like, how is this band that just seems monstrous? Uh, how are they from
They're eating
like
your
three?
backyard.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it sounded crazy to me. And I always really liked that, how with like CanCon and everything that and Much Music and all these different outlets, that Canada really made its own stars and its own infrastructure of music, and I think that's very unique to us.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And I think the part of that uniqueness is the fact that we do have so many genres and people supporting all, like we can easily do festivals with 5 or 6 different genres in a weekend and people will show up and go to those things too. So it is a little,
absolutely.
it's unique to our region, at least in some way.
I find it
And
really exciting though that like any given weekend in the summer or really any time of year, you can go see some of these classic like Canadian bands from back in the day, and you'll see like local up and coming bands getting to open for them. And I'm like, that's such a great opportunity.
Yeah, it really is.
And I don't know if you see that as much in the States.
Yeah, I don't hear about it as much, but I mean, we could be biased because of
Yeah,
the region we're in too. But
yeah, for sure.
now, speaking to that too, as far as having those opportunities to play with other people, you have a new album coming out. It's early in the year. Do you have like a plan to tour off the new album starting in May or something? Or
Yeah, we just released our album release shows, the first three of them anyways. We're going to be doing one at Zeros in Moncton, April 26th.
I love that venue. That's
Oh my,
an awesome
it's
venue.
such a vibe.
Yeah,
We're doing April 27th in Fredericton at the Broken Record Room.
cool.
Um, May 31st at Haven Music Hall in St. John. We're also going to be doing a great festival in Fredericton called Living Roots, which is
Yeah,
run by Eddie Young, fantastic music promoter from Fredericton. He does a lot of great things for New Brunswick and Atlantic Canada artists. So yeah, we're looking forward to that, and we got lots more to announce.
excellent. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on that because Haven's another place that I've been wanting to go, and Broken Records. I've been seeing a lot of shows popping up there lately from
Yeah,
bands that I'm aware of. So obviously they have a vibe there that I would enjoy if all the bands I like are hanging out there.
yeah, I definitely feel that I always love playing in Fredericton and St. John, but I felt both of those cities needed a new venue,
Yeah,
and those two are just exactly what they needed. Um, in Moncton, I've always been a very big champion of Moncton being just a great music city in terms of like enthusiasm, a lot of DIY ethic, and just good attendance to shows.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice to see. And I
Even,
had a blast there when I was there for Music Week in October, I guess it was.
yeah.
I realize that's a different, I'm seeing a very unique point of view where all the musicians are together, but I explored a little bit and I was at Zeros. Like that wasn't part of an official event. So
Yeah.
definitely like the city and definitely want to get back up there, experience some more of the music culture. But I would like to get around New Brunswick. I'm gonna have to hit you up and find out where all the cool venues are for me to hit over there.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll trade you a list. We'll do a Nova Scotia versus New Brunswick list.
Sure. If you're
Yeah.
ever in Miramichi, hit me up too.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. You wait. I will. This is the year I'm going to be traveling a little bit more. I've got two sets of gear. There's a mobile set on the other end of the apartment here, so that just hops in the car with me every day.
Where are the places to play in Halifax these days? It's been a while for me.
Yeah, there is a list, and I could probably rhyme them off for another half hour. So
Yeah,
I'll definitely take that one into an email conversation with you, so we go a little bit further. I
for
mean, you get
sure.
your. I'm always going to be mentioning shows that are like Marquee and Seahorse, like
Mhm.
that's a place that's been there forever. Gus's Pub bands are on here a lot.
Yeah,
And I've been spending a lot of time on Argyle Street at the Pint and Below Deck. So
yeah,
it's one place, but two venues inside of it. So those are all great places, but I could probably rhyme off another 20 if we sat here having a conversation on it. So
yeah,
yeah, let's definitely have that conversation. And for anyone
yeah.
that's watching this episode, where should they follow you online to keep up to date with everything, the new album, and maybe some new tour dates?
Great question. You can follow our website is www.thedreamromantic.com, and on all the socials like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all those. It's at Dillon Ryan Music.
Awesome. So
Yeah,
I'll put some links in the description down below.
for sure.
And since I do have an advance of the album here to listen to,
Hmm.
is there a lead single or something from this effort that you would like to play out with so people can have a little sampling?
Well, I'm just gonna pick a song. Let's play "So Lovely."
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time, Dillon. And
Thank you so much.
everyone stick around to listen to So Lovely. See you very soon.
Thank you.
If I could break your heart from time to time, it's not worth a thing, not a penny, quarter, or dime. If I could free your soul from time to time, it's not worth a thing, not a moment of your time. If I could leave your heart from time to time, it's not worth a thing if you can feel it from inside. And if we started off so lovely, would you just marry me alone? And if these words would have no meaning, then I would write you a love song. I could free your soul from time to time. It's not worth a thing, not a moment of your time. I could break your heart from time to time. It's not worth a thing if you can't feel it from inside. And if we started off so lovely, would you just marry me alone? And if these words would have no meaning, then I would write you a love song. And if we started off so lovely, would you just marry me alone? And if these words would have no meaning,